as I have learned in the Spiritualist church, that all of us are truly connected. But we need to take it a step further. We need to renew a lively and active awareness of our one God's passion for all humanity and the world we exist in here on the earth plane. Because human beings were made by God in His image, male and female. This, most of us learned from specifically the Bible in the book of Genesis. So, as spiritual we are, and sentient, conscious, and free, it's like the relationship between spouses. It's the primary place where all creation speaks with God and bears witness to His love. This world that we inhabit is the place where we were all brought to life. It is the place and time in which we gain a small little foretaste of the heavenly home that is our true destiny, where we will return, where we will live fully our communion with infinite intelligence, God, and with all others. So you're not getting away from anybody real easy here, because you're going to meet them again on the other side. Our human family is a community with a common origin and a common goal, whose attainment is within the one true God. Our commitment to valuing, supporting, and defending the life of every human being is ultimately motivated by our God's unconditional love, as we are taught to love one another. We need to be compassionate towards each other, not just during this time, but even more so through good times and bad, the times that can hurt us and cause us to stress and grief alone. So know that you're not alone. We truly do have each other to lean on and get through difficulties. Life, as well as God, has taught us that. We're all here and we're all special. Some days you don't feel so special. Some days you question why you're here. What's your purpose? What good have you done? What good can you do? I have a little storybook. It's called Just in Case You Ever Wondered. And I know most people have heard of this author, Max Lucado. He writes a lot of books, basically with a pretty altruistic theme of love and compassion and support for each other. Long, long ago, God made a decision, a very important decision, one that I'm really glad He made. He made the decision to make you. Yes, Ron. He made that decision. The same hands that made the stars made you. The same hands that made the canyons made you. The same hands that made the trees and the moon and the sun. The same hands made you. That's why you are so special. God made you. This is just a little reminder. He made you in a very special way. He made your eyes so they would twinkle. He made your mouth so you could smile. He made your laugh so you could giggle. even behind a mask. God made you like no one else. If you looked all over the world, in every city and every house, there would be no one else like you. No one with your eyes, no one with your mouth, no one with your laugh, because you are very, very special. And since you are so special, God wanted to put you in just the right home where you would be warm when it's cold, where you'd be safe when you're afraid, where you'd have fun and learn about heaven. So after lots of looking for just the right family, God sent you to me, and I'm so glad He did. I'll never forget the first time I saw you. Your eyes were closed, your fingers were curled in two little fists, your cheeks were puffy and round. I knew in my heart God had sent someone very wonderful for me to take care of. Your first night with me, I heard every sound you made. I heard you gurgle, sniff, your little lips smack. I heard you cry when you wanted to eat, and I fed you. You're bigger now and do more things. You can walk and run, you can play and talk, you can eat and sing and look at books. You're not a little baby anymore. But as you grow and change, some things will stay the same. I'll always love you, I'll always hug you, and I'll always be on your side. And I want you to know that, just in case you ever wonder. Remember, I'm here for you. On dark nights when you hear noises in your closet, call me. When you see monsters in the shadows, call me. On hard days when kids are mean and don't treat you like they should, come to me. If your grades are bad and your teacher is mad, come to me, because I love you, and I always will, just in case you ever wonder. Most of all, I'll be here to teach you about God. He loves you. He protects you. He and His angels are always watching over you. And God wants me to make sure you know about heaven. It's a wonderful place. There are no tears there, no monsters, no mean people, and no viruses. You never have to say goodbye or good night or I'm hungry. You never get cold or sick or afraid. In heaven, you were so close to God, He will hug you, just like I hug you. It's going to be wonderful. I will be there too, I promise. We will be there together, forever. Remember that, just in case you ever wonder. Just a little reminder. But the reason I'm putting this all together for you, there is a method to the madness. We must all learn and live in a compassionate way. Our time here on the earth plane is short. To spirit, just a second. But to us, a lifetime, whether it be 10 years or 100. We need to be compassionate and love one another. I'd like to bring somebody up at this time. I'd like her to share a moment with you. This is someone that has attended our church on and off for several years. I personally and many of the board people have known her 9-10 years probably, and I would like her to present her information to you as she has decided to join our church. So Carla, would like to come up at this time. This is Carla, everybody.
Hello.
Some of you know her, some of you will get to know her.
Well, thank you for having me today. As I like to say, my name is Carla, and I used to not listen to Spirit. And through a journey, which I'm going to share with you, I have learned to listen to Spirit the rough way. But as I was sitting back there last week, Spirit said to me, tell your story. Somebody needs to hear it. Somebody needs to hear what I have learned. So I asked Annette, and she was gracious enough to let me talk today. And it's interesting, I wasn't feeling well this weekend, nothing COVID. And I thought about calling Annette and saying, you know, can we just put it off, whatever. And Spirit said to me, suck it up, Buttercup. And I said, all right, suck it up, Buttercup. And because I do believe that I was meant to be here today. So I prepared a little something here. And so the answer to control is practicing surrender. Trying to maintain control in this life is a bit like trying to maintain control on a roller coaster. The ride has its own logic and is going to go its own way, regardless of how tightly you grip the bar. There's a thrill and a power in simply surrendering to the ride and fully feeling the ups and downs of it, letting the curves take you rather than fighting them. When you fight the ride, resisting what's happening at every turn, your whole being becomes tense and anxiety is your close companion. When you go with the ride, accepting what you cannot control, freedom and joy will inevitably arise. As with so many seemingly simple things in life, it's not always easy to let go, even if the things we know we can't control. Most of us feel a great discomfort with the givings of this life, one of which is the fact that much of the time we have no control over what happens. Sometimes this awareness comes only when we have a stark encounter with this fact, and all our attempts to be in control are revealed to be unnecessary burdens. We can also cultivate this awareness in ourselves gently by simply making surrender a daily practice. At the end of our meditation, we might bow saying, I surrender to this life. This simple mantra can be repeated as necessary throughout the day when we find ourselves metaphorically gripping the safety bars. We can give in to our fear and anxiety, or we can surrender to this great mystery with courage. When we see people on a roller coaster, we see that there are those with their faces tight with fear, and then there are those that smile broadly with their hands in the air, carried through the ride on a wave of freedom and joy. This powerful image reminds us that often the only control we have is choosing how we're going to respond to the ride. I'm going to take a little sip of water if you don't mind. Growing up, my father had sailboat figurines all over his office. I remember one that was a shinier brass. One day I asked, why all the sailboats? My father told me a man once told him, life was like a sailboat. The more you go with the waves, the easier. The more you go against them, the more challenging. In the Marvel movie Doctor Strange, there's a dialogue between Doctor Strange and his mentor, the Ancient One. The Ancient One says, you cannot beat a river into submission. You have to surrender to its current, use its power as your own. Dr. Strange replies, control it by surrendering control? That doesn't make sense. The Ancient One responds, not everything does or has to. Surrender, silence your ego, and your power will rise. I never really understood these concepts of surrendering to what Spirit had planned or what life has in store until I was given a very late Christmas present on Sunday, January 14th, 2018. I woke up with a cold and a pain in my left arm. As I went to a walk-in clinic for the cold, I mentioned the pain in my arm. A young doctor gave me a prescription for the cold and then diagnosed me with a wrist disorder. That's my joke, wrist disorder. As I went to my local CVS, the pain got worse and I found myself driving to Florida Hospital Altamont. While driving, the pain increased more and my hand got paralysis. As I arrived, the parking lot was completely full, except for the very first space closest to the ER. It's like it had my name on it. As I went to the ER, I next found myself on a helicopter ride to Florida Hospital South, where vascular surgeons Dr. Perez and Dr. Varnaghi would proceed to literally save my life. The first surgery, they discovered it was a blood clot, and they would be successful in removing it and saving my hand. The second day, my blood clotted again. They proceeded to remove and save me from any clots. The third day, my blood clotted again, and when they opened me up, my blood was as thick as yogurt and clotting before their eyes. I was literally the most difficult case they had ever seen. The clots traveled all over my body and had managed to travel into the tiny veins in my left hand and went into my right leg. This time, they could not save my hand. Once the clots go into the tiny veins, it is impossible to save. Dr. Perez came into my room 5 days in a row and asked me to move my toes on my right foot. In my mind, I was moving them, but physically I was not. On day 5, I was asked to move my toes again. This time, my mind did match the physical. Thank God, the PA said, we thought we were going to lose the leg too. It would be 2 weeks of watching my left hand turn purple, then my fingers turn into paper-thin black sheets. Dr. Vicarious from Ortho had to wait for the hand to die off and demarcation to know where he would amputate my hand. I immediately accepted the amputation of my hand and part arm. I could not control that. It was what it was. As I say, crying in a corner doesn't grow it back. Why was I okay surrendering and going with the flow of the loss of a limb, but not with things in my everyday life? The concept "this happened for a reason" helped me surrender to the situation. I would tell people, and still do, if this was not meant to happen, then the doctors would have gotten the clots before they went into my veins. Somewhere in me, I knew Spirit had a plan. Yet again, I would choose to crash against the waves and try to control things I couldn't in my everyday life. While all this was happening, all I could think about was work, my fears of losing my house, my car, how I was going to function. How was I going to work with a leg that wouldn't? I spent time with tears flowing down my face, wanting my old life back. I was crashing against the waves, trying to control what I could not control. Well, my journey was not over there. I would spend 4 weeks in ICU being monitored, and every morning being woken up by a physical therapist who would work with me given my right leg. I then would be gifted with a wound vac on my arm, and it would be my best friend as I had it attached to me all times. This was to help bring the healthy cells to the hole the operation had left in my arm. After graduating from ICU, I was observed until I went off to a rehab center where I was taught to walk all over again and regain my balance. Again, at this part of my journey, I feared the unknown. I thought I could control things. There I was, crashing against the waves again and again, over and over. Or as I now know, was not trusting Spirit's plan. My 7-month journey would proceed by having 3 stints, 7 more surgeries, a skin graft, several trips to the ER, hospital stays that totaled 7 months, and a final 5-week stay at a nursing home to get rid of a bone infection. I don't want to bore you with the first 7 months of my 2018 or spend my time up here with every detail. Hopefully you get the picture of what happened. What I do want to tell you about is this gift Spirit gave me. Yes, you heard me correct, a gift. As this journey in my destiny unfolded, I was given a terrific book at the right time. It was called The Surrender Experiment. As I opened myself up to being a sailboat and surrendering to life, to Spirit, I could see how losing my hand and part arm was a gift. As I began to realize I could not control things and surrender to life, to Spirit's plan, and decide to finally be the sailboat, it was amazing what actually did happen for me. Things that I would have thought I could control and wanted to happen all of a sudden finally did. I would be thinking of a certain PA that I needed to speak to, and lo and behold, she would be in the elevator when I needed her to be. There was a certain doctor I was thinking that I wanted to start seeing instead of my old doctor, and again, she would be in the elevator. I had an opinion question for Dr. Perez. As I listened to Spirit to walk in a certain direction, I ran into Dr. Perez. I had yet to miss a car payment, mortgage, and money had appeared, and I had been able to pay all my bills. That job I was so worried about, well, they terminated me and I had planned to all along. I'm not telling you my story, feel sorry for me. To quote Lisa Nichols from The Secret, don't feel sorry for me, my story is getting good. I tell you in hopes to inspire you to know I am living proof that life unfolds and Spirit directs us and has a plan. That when we think it is our darkest moment, it can become our brightest and best moment. to look for the gratitude in every situation and enjoy the ride. Be open to what might happen. Michael Gordon created a line of hair products called Bumble and Bumble. His first salon burned down. Michael had a choice. He could focus on his world and business falling apart, or he could look at his life unfolding and nudging him in a different direction. He could cry in a corner or keep moving. He immediately called the surrounding salons and told them what had happened and asked if his stylist could work in them until he could rebuild. Then he started his plans for what he called the House of Bumble, which was 4 stories bigger than his original salon. When asked about the fire, his response, "We were just meant to build bigger and better." If I make a list of pros and cons about my journey, on my con list is I lost my hand. On my pro list, and yes, you heard me correct, a pro list, I got to ride a helicopter. I have learned how to bake one-handed. I have regained my sense of self. I get half-price manicures. I have learned to ask for help. I've learned to trust the process. I have found gratitude in the little things. I have learned the life lesson of being a sailboat. I get to ask for a 5-finger discount. I have given so many hugs to strangers and received many hugs, especially in Publix, before COVID. I have made many new friends. I know how to run an IV drip in a hospital. I have inspired others. I see waking up to my son as a privilege, not a right. I've been able to play bingo, blackjack, and poker with 80-some-year-old ladies in a nursing home. I look at my cell phone less and listen more. I have strengthened my faith and spirit. So you ask, do I mourn my old life? Please, it's getting good. In today's world of uncertainty, job loss, and possibility of economic unknown, if your life is going through some other unknown, I ask you today, are you a sailboat, trusting Spirit's plan, or are you crashing against the waves? Is your cup half empty or half full? Even when we think it's half empty, I challenge you to make a pro and con list. You may be very surprised of what you find. Was my hand a gift or a tragedy? What is your perspective? My perspective? Losing my hand is the best plan Spirit has ever had for me. I ask that in the noise of your life, find the time to quiet yourself enough to listen to what Spirit wants to whisper in your ear. You may find a great journey on the path that they are placing you on. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that is evidence of Spirit allowing us sometimes to make mistakes, and they're still there. They're still there to pick us up and keep us going and provide inspiration, encouragement. It did. It reminded me of the book we have by the Reverend Marilyn Autry in our bookstore, The River of Life. I mean, so many things come at you from all different directions in life, and it's how you respond to those situations. And I was aware of Carla's situation as it was going on, and it never ceased to amaze me when I spoke to Carla in the hospital how positive she was staying. It wasn't, woe is me, oh my God, my life is over, you know, et cetera, et cetera. It was always like, okay, I can deal with this, I can handle this, I'm still alive, I'm here for my son. You know, it's like she just went along in her sailboat. And that's true testimony of what spiritualism can do for you, what it has done for a lot of us as we have encountered some extremely difficult situations in our lives. They are there when you need them. They are there. They might be silent to you at times, but they are there. And they're always around you with their unconditional love. So thank you for those words.
Thank you.
It is time now.